so I added some pictures into our project, and well, if you look at it, this is a giant picture, and it's actually not adjusting to the way we want our product pages to look. So taking a look at components that we're going to be using, I want it to actually look a little bit more like this. Our products are going to look more like this than they are like this. Right, we just need to make some changes to our home page. So let's go ahead and open up our project and home.html. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to fix the size of the image. It's fairly easy. All we do is do class and we add image-responsive, and this will make sure that the image is no bigger than the columns it sits in, or the div class of the columns that it sits in. So if I refresh, now the image, as far as the height goes, will fit, or excuse me, the width, it will fit inside of whatever we did. So if I change this to 4 and did that same thing that we did before, updated the cycles, it's going to change accordingly. And that's the same as if we just change the size of the picture anyway, or the browser. It will also update. All right, so this is cool, but I saw this one, the components, right? So the thumbnail with some text and stuff like that. I want to actually have this as our main part for our homepage versus what we currently have. So let's actually do this, and it's going to be 3 across, just like what we do right here. So in here I see like, oh, there's this div class thumbnail. Now we've already seen this stuff, but the thumbnail, image, caption, these things we haven't seen before. So let's go ahead and copy this stuff inside of it. So it's going to be thumbnail, and we're going to put it inside of column small of 4. Right, so this one is showing when it's small, it goes half. So let's change the browser size to see what that means. So now if I see the thumbnails, scroll down, I see that it's now 6, so it's going to be half. Where when it's medium, it's going to be 3 across, and then lower than small, it's going to be all the way across. Right, so right here, all the way across. And that's the way I'm going to do it, is I'm going to have it go all the way across when it's small. So I paste in that thumbnail stuff. Right, so we see all these things that we can kind of work with. Now, first of all, the image one, well, we already did that with our for loop. So let's actually put this inside of that for loop below it. Right, so we have image in here, and we'll do image.featured, and we are going to paste it into the image where the image set was. So right here. All right. And actually, what we don't want to have is the entire thumbnail inside of the image for loop. So let's actually grab this thumbnail div out of here, and then everything below the image out of there. All right, so now we have thumbnail label. We can probably just grab this and paste it up here. I might want that to be linked, so let's actually link that entire thing. I'm going to copy it and paste it here and here. All right, and then the paragraph text, let's just do product.description and truncate words to like 20. Maybe, actually, let's do 15. All right, so it's going to do the description, and then it's going to put ... after 15 words happens. That's what this filter does. And then we have a link here, so we could say view. That link should be going, obviously, to viewing the product. And then maybe the next one would be add to cart, but I'll just leave that empty for now. All right, so let's go through this a little bit. We've got our featured image, which would be right here. That's going into the thumbnail. I'm going to just tab everything back. So that goes inside of this thumbnail. And then we can tab this back a little bit. Then underneath that will be our caption, which goes into this div here. And then this div closes off that thumbnail, and then that one closes off the row, or the column, the div column. So I'm going to just tab those in a little bit. So then we've got this closing that, this closing the thumbnail, this closing the caption. All right, perfect. So let's save that, go back into our project, do a refresh, and now we see, hey, look, it's starting to look a little bit better. We have our pictures and our thumbnail and stuff like that. This is good. So if we click on view, it's going to take us to that product itself. I still want to clean this up a little bit more in the future, but for now we're just going to kind of leave that as is. I am going to add one more product in here though, in products, just so we can make sure that our rows are separating. So product 3, save that, and then we will add an image for it. actually better yet, if there's no featured image, so if we scroll down we see that there's nothing there. If there's no featured image, maybe we want to have a default image, like a placeholder image. Like I have a placeholder here, but I actually uploaded that to be a placeholder. Well, what if we wanted just an image for a placeholder? So if we go into components, back into our thumbnails, if I scroll up a little bit, I can actually just grab one of these and just drag it. I'm going to drag it or save it onto my desktop. So save image as. I'm going to bring it into my e-commerce project, into the static, and then static files, image, and I'll call it placeholder. Notice it's .svg. All right, so now what I'll do is I'll put an if clause in here and do if product.product image set all. So if there is even an image set, then do that stuff. Else image class equals to image responsive, and then source would equal to the static for that image. So I'm going to have to do static, that's image slash, what would we call it, placeholder .svg, and put single quotes around that and close it off. And we have to go to the top and make sure our static's loaded. So we'll go up here and go load, make sure it's curly brackets, load static files. All right, so all this is doing is checking if there's an image set, then go through this stuff. If there's not, then we're gonna use our placeholder. So I'll do end if. All right, so now back into our project here, we got an issue with our placeholder, right? It's not actually showing up, and that's because we didn't collect the static. So if we do python manage.py, collect static, override it, yes, run server, do a refresh. Looks like it's still not coming through, so let's see what's going on here. And did not have this break off here. So see that it has to close off just like that. Okay. So all I did was here is this should be replaced with an actual value. So that's all I was looking for, is to see what that value was, to see if it's there. And if there was a value there, I'd click on it and like I would go into a new tab and see if it exists. And in this case, it's not going to exist because, well, it's kind of a messed up link. Now if I refresh it, it does exist. And now if I click into a new tab, it will show me that actual image. Cool, so that actually does work. That works just fine. So now it has a placeholder, and that placeholder is it only takes place if we don't have product images for it, like what we see here. I don't actually have one. So for product 3, I don't have a set of images that are associated to it. All right, so if we go to view product, we see all this. That's good. We don't see a whole lot yet, so we can actually add in our images now for that individual product. But before we do that, we want to go in our views, and since we have product in here, we can actually use images. I'm going to use product image as images. So images equals to product image set all, just like that, and that's going to set this new variable of images, and we're going to say images. So now we can just loop through the images instead of using product image set. But we could also do product images, right? So we can grab the model of product image, this one right here. We can import that and say, I'm going to comment this out for a second, and then say images equals to product.objects.filter product equals to product. So in this case, this is doing the exact same as that, except it's filtering the objects based on the product versus grabbing what the product is and then getting the images the other way. So it's like kind of in reverse in a way. All right, so now we can replace either one, and that's okay. And then basically what we'll do then is we will come into our single.html where our images are, And I'm just going to have my images come through, so I'll just do for img and images int for. So this is just like our home page where we're going to be running through just like this. So I can actually go ahead and copy this part and go into single, paste that in, and now change this to img.image because that's what I called it on this loop. So now it's going to show the featured one, and I'm just going to put an h1 for now to call it featured. We will change that later, but that's going to be the featured image. And then after that, we'll just say if not item featured. So if it's not featured, then we'll show something else. We'll have a different image completely, but we will probably change it later. So if it's not featured, it's gonna be smaller most likely. All right, so that's just for that for now. So let's take a look at our product image. Looks like we have some issue here. So let's go into our view. And product objects filter, that's actually incorrect. It should be product image.objects.filter. So let's try that again. And let's make sure we're saved here. Looks like we're running into some errors there. So I'm actually going to, what I'm going to do is uncomment out these try loops and see what those errors are. The error went away. That's because there wasn't actually any errors that time around when I fixed it. But that would be a way to check it. So like if we put it back to being product and I commented these out, then it will tell me that, hey, you can't resolve product into keyword. These are the options for it. And of course, well, that's only because I called it product. So let's actually redo everything. Put it back to what we had it before, which was product image. All right, so we refresh in here. Now we have product, and there we go. So we got the image coming through, and that's okay. So we don't have an item featured. For some reason, it's not coming through as featured. So let's actually go into product 1, and we have create your own mobile app a few times. So that's not what we want to see either. Oh, this is why. So we called it item featured. There we go. So now it shows featured. View product featured. There, that's much better. All right, so all it did there was if it's not featured image, so I didn't have the image.featured correctly, so that actual conditional was failing, so then it was just going through all the rest of them. So yeah, there's that. We could also just change this to being if item featured and then else, show the other items. And I could say paragraph not featured. Right, so featured and then not featured, and that not featured is above the featured. And even another way to test it would be going back into our custom content and doing a thumbnail, just like what we saw before. We could do this exactly, so let's go ahead and copy this. This is going to be for the ones that aren't featured, so down here, this is where I'm going to put it. And now in image source, I'm going to just cut this right here, change all that to this, and we'll get rid of not featured. Alright, so if I refresh in here, and I see now below that featured image, we've got a smaller image below it, which is good. So that's a good start for actually showing our products. We will actually clean this stuff up later, but for now we can see now we have our products, we have the ability to view them. We can also add in, price and all that stuff, which we will do. But for now, I just want to leave it as is. The only thing that I might actually want to change is the size of that featured one to being just a little bit smaller. So I'll do that with this, and then I'll do image featured 6, and then extra small will be half. There we go. So now that featured image is just a little bit smaller, and we have the ability to see the other images. And notice, okay, so we have all of these images now, and featured is down here. So it's not perfect yet. We still have some work to do as far as how this is going to look, but it's getting there. So the next one we'll actually do a search function, so we can search through our products and show those as results. And then we'll start working towards building our actual shopping cart and, of course, fixing these product pages. All right, we'll see you soon.